Welcome everyone to Roaming with Restless Women. This is our latest episode, and I'm so excited to talk with Kelly Price. She is the CEO and founder of the Reset Medical and Business Center, Wellness Center, in Strongsville, Ohio. I used to live in Ohio, by the way. With over 30 years of experience in automotive retail, claims administration, business development, and captive insurance management, Kelly brings strategic leadership to the forefront. Her dedication to visionary thinking and collaborative growth drives her mission to improve lives through innovative wellness solutions. And I will tell you, I've been on the website and I'm just extremely curious about the practice that she has and how she came up with it. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, I'm delighted. So tell me a little bit about your background and the journey that you've taken to get to the point where you got the idea to do Restart.
Okay, first of all, most importantly, I'm not a doctor. And to have a medical facility, you actually have to be a doctor. And so I didn't know that getting into it. I really thought that I could just go hire a doctor and kind of make it happen. But I spent 30 years in the automotive industry, so nothing in the medical space,
Wow.
And ran my own company, sold it in 2020. I still sit on the board today. But as I was going about and figuring out different ways to impact people and lives, I still have a foundation called Changing Lives Foundation, which helps people in catastrophic need. So house fires, sudden illness, accident, injuries, with a one-time financial grant. And so really trauma, catastrophic things have always been at the forefront of my mind of wanting to help people that have gone through really big challenges. And I got involved through a friend in some documentaries that are social action awareness type films that help bring awareness to things that maybe you and I wouldn't necessarily be aware of. And one of them is a documentary called Surpassing Sight, which is about 4 blind individuals that are very successful entrepreneurs and or business people. One's an attorney for Facebook Meta. The other is a very successful business owner. There's 4 of them, and actually another one's an attorney as well, but they bike across America blind. And the point of the entire thing is to show people that you can be blind and still accomplish anything that you really want to, and that we don't have to be scared to hire the blind, and that we can reduce the unemployment of the blind down. So as I was working with one of the producers, he was talking to me about a treatment his wife was having. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know she was sick. And he said, oh, she's not sick. Did I not tell you about this doctor we're following? And he goes on to tell me about a doctor that has been able to help people using a block that's been used for 100 years in pain management. But they found that it helps with menopause, with PTSD, with anxiety, with depression, with long COVID. And he starts telling me about this, and I'm like, does it work for firemen? Because my son was or is a fireman and suffers dramatically from PTSD. And all of us would, if you spent every 3rd night of your life getting woken up by major, what they call tones, that you have to jump out of bed and within a minute and a half be dressed and ready to go to a fire, to a shooting, to somebody passing away, to somebody just needing to be lifted up off the ground because they fell. But you're constantly at that hypervigilant alert. And so it ends up becoming an injury to your sympathetic nervous system.
Oh, wow.
And by doing a sympathetic reset, it allows your nerve endings to heal so that then you can begin processing normally. So immediately I said, I've got to get my son in, because when can I get him in? So between the time I found out about it, which was last November, and my son being treated in December, I had talked to the producer and his wife and all the different things that had happened with them. And immediately I knew I just needed to bring this to Cleveland and bring it to people in a way that is the most affordable way that we can possibly do it, And I really wanted to make sure that we could discount it for people like firemen, policemen, military, teachers, nurses. They're putting themselves back in the firing line the second they can come get the treatment, but then they're going right back out the next day and they're right back in that firing line. So typically, if somebody like you or I were to go get it and we're not in one of those environments and we don't have something traumatic happen to us, we generally wouldn't need it as often or maybe never again. But for somebody like that, they're going to be in that situation where they're going to need that reset of their sympathetic nervous system again. And so I wanted to make sure that we could bring it to them in a way that was financially viable. When I walked into the center, I said, I'm Kelly Price, and I want to know, how do I open a center like this in Cleveland? And the doctors, first of all, you don't, you have to be a doctor. And I had written a business plan between Christmas and New Year's on how to bring this to Cleveland. And obviously, shortly after, discovered that I actually needed to have a doctor that actually owned it. But I had a place that I knew that a facility that I knew that I could have it in. And I just started really creating the entire business plan. And I got a referral from one of the doctors that's the head of a big hospital system here in Cleveland. And we're probably world renowned for our hospital systems, as you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, I have the perfect guy for you. And I was getting ready to go out of town for a month. But I really wanted to open a center by April 1st because I knew a whole bunch of people that wanted to get the treatment. And I just wanted to get the center open. And I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Josh Goldner. We met by Zoom, and I told him what my vision was. And he, within 3 days, said, yes, I want to do this with you. And we never met actually in person. And we spent the next month by Zoom, actually the next 6 weeks by Zoom, hiring people, planning everything out, getting everything ready, ordering everything. And then when I got back in town and he was out of town for a week, we met on March 9th in the facility that we opened with the team that we had hired. And we all came together and we opened the doors less than a month later on April 4th. We literally had actually never met even in person, but I knew that, first of all, I'm a believer that God put all these people together because they're wonderful people. And I will say there's not a ton of money in it because it's very expensive to have a doctor and to do all these things. But the people that were helping make it all worth it. I should say there's no money in it. Right now I'm just putting money into it, but it's okay. Like eventually it'll hopefully break even. My goal is to donate all the money back to a nonprofit to help more people. But first we have to become profitable to actually donate something.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, it's really been, so I set the prices fairly low compared to some other competitors out there. Not to just beat them or anything like that, but I just wanted to make it as affordable as possible for people to get the treatment. And I will tell you, my girlfriend, two of my girlfriends and I got the treatment done in January. I got it done for menopause. I was having 35 to 40 hot flashes a day. And my other girlfriend had been in and out of a lot of different treatment centers and was basically in what you would call a frozen state, not fight and not flight, but just completely frozen, or some people call it flat, with no emotion, like no laughing or crying, just there. And right on the table, she started crying and said, I feel like my straitjacket has come off. I feel like I can feel love. I feel, and just because that when you reset that sympathetic nervous system, it allows you to process things that you couldn't process before. And so there's an organization out there called It's PTSI, not PTSD.
Yes.
And
I
don't
saw
know
that on your website.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that term. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's a disorder. Number one, carries a stigma with it that is really not fair because it is a disorder, but it's actually an injury to your sympathetic nervous system. And so what happens is if you're constantly setting your sympathetic nervous system on fire, it doesn't know when you're being chased by a bear and when you're not. It's just sitting at a hypervigilant state. And so when we can calm that down with the stellate ganglion block, the neurosympathetic reset and reset that sympathetic nervous system. It allows your nerve endings to heal. And now you can process your emotions normally rather than them being stuck in the frontal cortex, just like whirling around, not knowing where to go. And so you sit at either a really hyperactive state or a really hidden state, or calm or quiet or depressed state, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
And so that injury can be actually healed. And so it's no longer a disorder because it is something that you're stuck with forever. So they're working on actually going up against Washington and saying, we need to change this from a disorder to an injury. But for now, it is what it is, but it allows us to really help to process that.
That's just, when I was reading through your website, and literally I probably spent an hour just watching all the videos and thinking how many people have been through trauma of all kinds. And then when you look at menopause, especially, how long it took me to get hormone replacement therapy, because I had to talk a doctor into giving it to me, which that sounds crazy. So I just absolutely loved the whole story. Now tell me about this person that's on your website. You guys are sitting on a couch and you're talking with each other about having this idea in an airport.
Yeah, it's my girlfriend. She was actually the maid of honor in my wedding, but she was working for Changing Lives Foundation. She had been a business leader for many years and decided about 2 years ago that she wanted to do something bigger with her life rather than just do loss mitigation and mortgages. Not that it's not fun, but she wanted to do something more impactful. And she had been running leadership training and values and actions training for our foundation for a little over a year. And we had been talking about how do we do something bigger than what that is. So we had been actually having that conversation. And I said to her, I really want to do this. And she said, I do too. You know, she had an experience with the treatment as well. She watched my son go through it. And she's, I want to do this. And we were standing in front of an airport or monitor waiting to board our flights. We were going separate directions. And I looked at her and we're just going back and forth. And we should do this. I'm like, we should do this. And she's like, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah. And then we just like high-fived each other. And then that was like, and so she's one of our partners. Nicole Harwood, she runs our patient engagement team. And she's the most compassionate, loving individual and perfect for this role, because each and every day we're talking to somebody with some sort of trauma, depression. Menopause in itself can be very debilitating. I know for myself that sometimes I remember standing in front of a group of about 400 people at our company Christmas party and having a hot flash. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm having a hot flash. And I only could make a joke out of it because I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't continue speaking, and people are like, get over it. How bad could it be? But it can be bad.
Very bad.
Luckily, I didn't have the hormonal issues of the anger and the depression and things like that. But a lot of people do. And so by having this, the neurosympathetic reset actually resets the regulation, your body temperature regulation in your body. Some people that have had like really bad night sweats at night or something like that aren't even menopausal can actually have help from this as well.
That, to me, that's just amazing. It's just amazing. You must have some sort of a value stream or a red thread of passion that has woven through all of your career choices and at this point with Reset. So tell me a little bit about what your red thread is. That's what Marcus Buckingham calls it. But what is your stream of passion?
I love Marcus Buckingham. I'm actually,
isn't he great?
Yeah, I'm a John Maxwell leadership trainer and coach, and he was a speaker, I think last year at Live to Lead, and I host Live to Lead in Cleveland every year. You can come. October.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to.
But it's funny, on my website, my tag on my personal website is developing healthy, happy humans. And so in my previous company, culture was more important to me than anything. Valuing people was more important to me than anything. and I always said, my goal is to create a healthy, happy human in the associates that work for me, the people around me. And so we would do a lot of training, such as that book wasn't out yet, but Marcus's book, as well as all John Maxwell's, Patrick Lencioni, John Gordon,
Oh,
all of the
yeah.
different books we would train on, and I would have optional leadership or book studies that they could come to. My management team went through book studies all the time, but we had such a deep culture of what our vision and our passion was. And I would always say, if you develop yourself to a point that you've gotten bigger than our organization, then I think we've done our job. If you are able to go out and do more with your life, if I develop you so much that you have to leave because I don't have a place for you, then I've created the person that you need to be. So I really, when I think of myself, I'm really a culture builder and galvanizer, just because I want to network and bring people together without a fear of somebody getting a piece of my pie. I don't care. To me, it's all God's pie. How can we do this all together and make it the best that we can make it?
Yeah, there's more than enough to go around. That's the abundance mindset. As soon as you start thinking scarcity mindset, your world shrinks down around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're exactly right. I live by that same rule. Yep. So what's the most important thing, or the most important, or the hardest challenge that you have faced being a business owner and an entrepreneur in your career?
Balance.
I would
I think
imagine you seem like a go-getter.
I didn't do a great job of it truly in my company in the automotive industry, because we started growing very early, and then it kept growing, and then we got bigger, and then you get more things, and the next thing I know, you've got 185 associates instead of 8, and there was a lot to go on. And so I didn't do a really good job of taking care of myself.
Mm.
And so I think that didn't make me as good of a leader as I could have been. And I thought it was the right thing to say, listen, my door is always open. Throw yourself on my calendar if you need me. My calendar's open to you. And then I would do all of my work at night. So everybody else would leave. And then I would start doing stuff around my work. And then I would work until 11, 12, or 1 o'clock. And then I would go home and I would sleep and I would get up. And I even had a couch in my office and a shower and in the building. And I kind of like took pride on the fact that I was willing to do that. But in reality, I was only hurting everybody around me because I didn't set good boundaries and for myself or for them. And it was too easy to come and ask me what the next step was rather than figuring it out themselves. So I think for me, learning to balance and push back a little bit and say, tell me, what is it that you would do? You know what I mean? And what don't, and I would always say, if you're getting ready to fail, wave the flag before you fail, come in and tell me and let's make a plan. But what I didn't do is say, what are the 3 things that you did try that didn't work for you, and what could you have done different? And I think had I calmed myself down enough, had the NSR treatment.
Yeah, there you go.
I will say, it's funny, I was laughing because I went and did the treatment for menopause, but what I found is it actually calms me down, where my mind, even though I didn't profile for anxiety or depression or PTSD, but I've actually become much more focused and clear. And now I can look and go, that wasn't the right thing to do. And I could have been much calmer about it. And I could have been much clearer about it rather than just giving the answers, because that was my hypervigilant thing, is just give the answer, let's keep moving, where I could have taught a little bit better.
And that, I think every one of us goes through looking back. Oh, I could have done that better. But if we don't do that, and if we stop learning, that is when we actually become not worth being here, frankly, as far as adding value to the world. And I am very focused on everything that I do needs to add value to the world in some way, shape, or form for somebody. And so I firmly believe that we all do the best that we do in that situation. But it sounds to me like that this treatment would actually help in that self-reflective process.
Yeah, it really is like, it's shown so much to help with hyperactivity, OCD, ADHD, and
Yeah.
only because most of it is really caused from our nerve endings being, if you looked at a functional MRI and you took a person that doesn't have PTSD at a state of rest and you did a functional MRI on them, and then you took a person with PTSD and did a functional MRI and you put them side by side each other, the picture of the person with PTSD, their brain scan has a lot of red all around it. And they're the person at rest, and then you have another person at rest that doesn't have it, and it's yellow and green. And so it just shows that those nerve endings are sitting there alive and on fire the entire time, even when we're at rest. And when you have the neurosympathetic reset, a lot of people will say, man, I'm sleeping so much better. You're sleeping so much better because your mind isn't racing 100 miles a minute. The same thing happens if I'm sitting in a meeting. If my mind is racing a mile a minute, I'm not really present with you. So I'm not, and I'm not remembering the things I should. And I'm thinking, do I need to check my phone? Do I need to do this? And what's the next thing I need to do? And so I remember I was working on a project and I sat down to work on it, and I got 4 hours later and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never checked my email. I don't think that's happened in 35 years. Even before email started, I don't think that happened. It just was like, it's the ability to just know that it's all going to be out there and I can handle it when I need to. That's a new, one of the patients said, she was at our open house and she said, we had our open house a couple months after we opened. We just did like a soft launch. And she said, it's like all the things that I know I have to do that are running around in my head. I was able to put them up on a whiteboard, write them down and go, I know they're there. I just don't have to think about them all the time. So I know that it's going on. I know the dog still needs to go to the groomer. I know this, my tire still needs to be changed, whatever. It's all there, but I don't have to be sitting here thinking the dog needs to go to the groomer. I need to go, I don't have to keep thinking of it over and over again. And so I love the analogy of the whiteboard just being out there and having something that you can look at when you're ready to think about it. So I can go look at my phone when I'm ready, but I don't have to be thinking, who's texting me right now?
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the scariest parts for me about getting older, I'm 60, I'll be 61 this month, and my mother has Alzheimer's. One of the scariest things for me, especially running my business, is I feel like I can't forget things. And I write them down. I have this flurry of little notes to myself so I don't forget something. And I think that
we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon at the center.
I'm telling you, you're joking. I'm not. I'm probably going to come up there because it would be such a relief to feel like I have a whiteboard, and that's how I used to manage my projects when I was a consultant. So that analogy of the whiteboard makes perfect sense to me, and it just even hearing about it calms me down because it's not just me that's having this whirlwind in my brain. Well, I have 3 final questions for you, or 2 questions, and then one little exercise.
Okay.
So I'll ask you to close your eyes just for a moment and tell me what appears in your mind when I say wise woman.
When you say what?
Wise woman. And you can open your eyes.
Yeah, to me, wise woman, like the first vision I have is walking alongside Jesus, that a wise woman will seek the guidance, the word first before making a decision.
Absolutely. What does she look like?
To me, I just see Mother Mary. So the vision of Mother Mary is we have with the, I don't know what's over their head, but
the blue wimple.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I see. Just very perfect. Pretty and kind and thoughtful.
Absolutely. I like to ask all of my guests that question because what they come out with as the description is just every woman. It's amazing. It's just wonderful. Okay, so second to last question. Where do you like to roam?
So probably for me, I do two different things. If I have the opportunity, I love to hike with my sons and just be out in nature. And then the other place I like to roam is through journaling. And
Yes.
so spending a lot of time writing and or reading and learning, doing a lot through either Bible study or just writing out things or even learning through different, that's why I love doing the Live to Lead event that I do each year, because teaching and leading, but also learning and sitting and learning from others is really important. So I think just roaming creatively, through everything is important to me.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. What makes you restless?
Let's see. Probably when I know I have way too much going on and there's a lot of people waiting on me.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And not having anybody that I can delegate that particular thing to where it's just mine. And it's not, I can say to my executive assistant, hey, can you take this on? Where there are things that I have to actually be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to ask those two questions because the answers really embody what this whole podcast is all about. Is we roam and we roam in different ways, but mostly we learn. And then also, when you're restless, you're always learning and you're always giving and living. If you're not restless, you have to wonder, what are you? You know, you're stuck. So thank you for those answers. And
Yeah.
how can people learn more about Reset?
Pretty easy. You can just go right to our website. It's theresetcenter.com. Reset Medical and Wellness Center in Strongsville, Ohio. And the easiest thing to do is we have something super cool. It's like a mental health tracker that's similar to a physical health track or physical tracker that you'd use with your Apple Watch or something. So you can go on and request a free mental health assessment. And whether or not you ever come and get treatment, it allows you to see where your mental health is at, from an anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia, fatigue. And then if you are having menopause symptoms, you can ask for the menopause assessment as well. But it's really cool because you'll do it the first time and then it'll continue to prompt you to do it over a period of time. The idea is you get it done, you create a baseline, you get the treatment, and then you watch yourself. And what it allows our team to do is if you do get the treatment and you start to drop off in your scores, it allows us to know that so that we can reach out and figure out, is there something else that's happened from a traumatic event or a re-trigger of an event? Like, it often doesn't have to happen, but maybe you heard of it happening to somebody else and it re-triggers you, things like that. But it also alerts you that maybe you're just not doing as good as you should, and you should be looking into some talk therapy or different things that are going on. So that free mental health assessment is available to anybody. It doesn't cost you anything. So I would encourage you to start there. And obviously, as you did, Julie, there's lots of testimonies and articles and news releases related to the treatment that we offer at Reset.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I definitely am going to go back and take that assessment. And I really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom with all of us.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
you.
Thanks for what you do.
Oh, thank you.